Okay, we are live. All right. So let's see here. We are live, but I need to invite Miss Ladybug Larsen here. Let's see. Okay. So, thank you all for joining. Today, I'm going to be chatting with an old acquaintance of mine, Miss Ladybug Larsen. And I'm going to be catching up with her because she's up to all sort of interesting things these days. I don't actually know all the things she's up to, but I see her Facebook posts and everything about her community gatherings, her spiritual working with people, and oh, and here she is. Let's go to the video. Let's see. It says adding. So,
Haha. Hey.
how are you? Thanks for joining me today. Sorry about the tech issues.
Oh, there are always tech issues. It's okay.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was so ready. Like I got my camera and my computer all set up and everything, and it's like I'm just gonna have to end up holding the phone the whole time. So, but that's
No
okay.
worries. Let me get a cushion on underneath me so that I'm sitting a little higher.
Ah, no
Phew.
problem.
Okay. That feels a little better.
Good, good. So again, thanks for being here. And I was just saying in the intro, like that we're kind of old acquaintances, and I'm really excited to hear what you're up to these days because it's very different than what I knew you used to be up to, in social work
Mm-hmm.
and work and stuff like that, which we can talk to later. But why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are and what you do, and your little elevator spiel about like Haux Gatherings.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so my name's Ladybug Larsen, and I have my own business called Haux Gatherings. And Haux is a Portuguese term that means the cure comes. And so Hausch and then gatherings because my business is very much based around community as medicine. And so I I bring people together to celebrate and deepen their healing and create spaces for folks to be vulnerable for that to happen. And I do that a few different ways. I have integration circles for folks who work with expanded states of consciousness, which is oftentimes psychedelics, medicines, and entheogens, but also meditation, yoga, breath work, right? Um, and it's a space for people to come with their struggles in their healing and growth work and receive support from community that's on the same path. And so I have been doing that for a couple of years. Since before the business existed, I've been hosting those. And then I also facilitate ceremonies for folks with various medicines, including cacao and cannabis. And then I do one-on-one inner healing work with folks with a somatic focus. So I work with clients really helping them tap into the body and self-resource their healing.
Wow, that's like so amazing. I'm like really happy and like astonished because not that I didn't think like you were capable of any of this amazing, but it's like I just could you tell us a little bit about like how you grew up? Because this were you always familiar with some of these beliefs and traditions and practices, or were you brought up with any particular spiritual or religious path belief, formed your own in adulthood? What was your story with like your own healing and kind of spiritual consciousness beliefs and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a fun story. So I was baptized Catholic. My mom had converted to Catholicism when she got married. And so I was baptized Catholic. And then when my parents divorced, my mom left the Catholic Church. And she had grown up Lutheran, but didn't subscribe to any one denomination. And so my mom has always gone to, and these are her words, she has always gone to the place of worship where she gets the message. And so my mom has been Lutheran, Quaker, Protestant, Presbyterian, Catholic, I mean, all across the board, because it doesn't matter to her. And so,
those solutions, right?
yeah. So when I was, I don't know, whatever age you need to be confirmed into a church, we were attending a Presbyterian church at the time. So then I was baptized Presbyterian or confirmed Presbyterian. And then when I was like 15 or 16, I had this interesting dream where it was during the Columbine shootings had happened recently, and I had this dream of a shooter coming into the school and executing people for their religious beliefs. And in the dream, I was in front of the gun, and he asked me what I believed, and I said, I'm Presbyterian. And right as I was waking up, I had this realization, I'm dying for something I don't even believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And this was his teenager, you said?
This is in high school.
Okay. Yeah.
So from there, I shared that with my mom, and she encouraged me to continue going to church, but didn't require it. Oh. And I went to church, and I started meeting with the pastor, and the pastor would let me read the sermons before they were finalized so that I could like pick them apart and say what didn't make sense to me. So I did that for a while, but ultimately it just never made sense. It just never, the whole Christian paradigm, it just never made sense to me.
Right.
So I became atheist. I was agnostic for a little bit, and then I became atheist, proselytizing atheist. All of the Richard Dawkins arguments and religion isn't real and there's no God. And I was atheist for quite some time. I found a lot of comfort in that, while simultaneously realizing that it was just as dogmatic as any other religion that I had experienced. But I didn't do anything about it. I'm like, well, this is where I'm comfortable. Right?
Honesty, man.
And then I came to realize that the only reason I was atheist was because I was not comfortable admitting that I didn't know. And that was maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe like 5 to 6 years ago.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I'm only atheist because it just is really uncomfortable for me to admit that I don't know. And I decided to sit with that. Mm-hmm. And so I stopped being proselytizing atheist, started admitting I don't know, more kind of an agnostic viewpoint, but still no real spirituality.
Okay.
And I have never concerned myself with where we come from and what's the point of all this. And those aren't questions I've ever concerned myself with. And so I don't really need to know. Those are my dogs playing in the background. If you can hear the pitter-patter. And then when I found recovery, so I've been in recovery for about 4.5 years, I started attending 12-step meetings, which are very much focused on spirituality.
Right.
And I sat through the God talk and the discomfort with that, knowing that that wasn't what I wanted, and started, I needed to be in the meetings for my recovery. I needed to be in them. And so I needed to find a way to sit through the God talk. And so what I did was I just started translating in my brain what they could possibly be talking about in a way that I could hear it and get the message.
Yeah.
So that just kind of, my higher power was all sorts of things. It kept morphing. At one point, it was Great Spirit by Nako. It was a song. It's been the ocean. It's been myself, just my own higher self. It's been a list of traits on a piece of paper. And that worked. And all of that kind of still is incorporated into my spirituality, my higher power, whatever you want to call it. But I started working with entheogens as part of my recovery. And that work created in me this spirituality around non-duality, around everyone as one, and also everyone as a separate piece of the same big puzzle, right? And so from there, I mean, my spirituality is very, very practical. I say I choose to believe. Anytime I say anything about my spirituality, I say I choose to believe that this is what happens when someone dies. I choose to believe that this is why this thing happened over here. Because what I choose to believe in any given moment is what helps me find acceptance and peace in the moment so that I can grow through it. And so sometimes what I choose to believe one day contradicts what I choose to believe the next day. And it's because it's what do I need in order to be like, okay, here.
Right.
Yeah, but I incorporate all sorts of things. I incorporate Hindu gods and goddesses. I incorporate the cosmos. When I speak of higher power, the term I use is universe. But all of it's the same. All of it's the same. If it's God or Allah or universe or source or higher self or whatever it is, for me, all of it's the same.
You were saying like I briefly dated someone that was very much into the AA meetings, and he actually helped run a lot of them across California. It was very interesting to go, but like you said, there was a lot of the God talk that was like specifically Christian God talk that was too much for me. But and there were other people that had like different spiritual beliefs and stuff like that. But I'm interested, did you get any pushback or were you able to find support like working with like cannabis or like Cambo or cacao or like these different tools? Are they open to those sort of things, or have you found like kind of a mixed bag sort of response from that community?
So traditional 12-step meetings tend to be largely against any outside substances. So combo, cannabis, mushrooms, ayahuasca, like all of it. They consider it an outside issue, and quite a few members of traditional 12-step programs will consider somebody not sober or not in recovery if they are working with these medicines. However, there is a group called Psychedelics in Recovery that has just popped up within the last 2 years, psychedelicsinrecovery.org, and they have 16 meetings a week over Zoom that are worldwide, and it's based off of the 12-step model. And so it's for folks who come from a 12-step background and understand that for them spirituality is what keeps them sober, is what keeps me sober, is my spirituality. And if that is what is keeping someone sober, then Psychedelics in Recovery it acknowledges that recovery can look different for every single person. And the point of recovery is to stay away from the harmful substances and behaviors. But there are other substances or behaviors that are not harmful, that a traditional 12-step program would say, oh, no, 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 you don't do that. Despite, you know, drinking energy drinks and smoking cigarettes and, you know, yeah, so psychedelics in recovery has popped up. And actually, so I'm located in San Diego, and San Diego has the only in-person PIR meeting in the world. So
Wow, lucky you.
yeah, so
That's so
that is actually the only meeting, the only recovery meeting that I attend each week is that PIR meeting, located in Hillcrest in the neighborhood.
oh,
Um,
oh my gosh, that's lovely.
yeah, it's really fantastic, and literally every single week, at least one person comments on how much safer and how much more vulnerable they can be in this group of people working with these medicines with this really open mind about what recovery can look like, as compared to traditional 12-step meetings.
I, I don't know how many people that really appreciated, like you said, certain aspects of 12 step, but they weren't able to do like you, or they didn't want to take the time or the energy to like translate it because it's just like too much. And I
Yeah.
get that, you know. And even though like I never had an issue with like addiction or recovery or anything, this is something that like I would love to go to just to meet these people and hear their experiences because uh, for those of you that don't know, like Ladybug was my case manager at a time some years ago when I was doing Cambo. I was working through some really, really deep trauma and stuff that like the talk therapy and the Western traditional modalities just it wasn't there for me. It wasn't working like, and I don't want to put that down for other people if it works for them, but it just wasn't. I felt like I was running into a brick wall. Like and once I did the Cambo, it was like, bam, I finally was able to break that wall and work through a lot of my issues and heal and like kind of put together my subconscious in ways that I didn't even know that they were kind of like broken and very hurt and kind of like scarred in a lot of ways. And that just kind of was like such a beautiful experience. And I remember telling you, I don't know, I wanted to ask you if you remember that around the time that I was doing the Cambo, because I was telling you like, oh, it's so great. Like I'm working through these issues, but it's like the most painful thing I've ever gone through. At the same time, like growing up and the purging and the sweating but it was like, wow, even though it's warrior's medicine, it's like once you get through it, like it's
Mhm.
such a such an amazing.
And you did the full vaccine, if I recall. You did the
I
3
did
ceremonies in like 3 days, right?
uh I don't know if it was in 3 days. It was within one moon cycle, and then
Yeah.
I did one more after that, which kicked my butt. I did like 8 or 9 dots of Cambo, I think, which was it kicked my butt. I don't think I'd do that again. But yeah, yeah. I did the one full cycle, and the within one moon cycle, and then it was probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years after that that I came back to it. But yeah, it was amazing. Hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, you're the first person that I heard of that medicine from. And I remember looking it up to see where I could find it. But I didn't actually sit with that medicine until like 2 years ago. So we're talking like 6, 7 years ago. Um,
Right.
and it was another 5 years after hearing about it that I sat with it for the first time. But that's some beautiful medicine. It took 4 sittings for me to actually get anything out of it. The
Uh-huh.
first 3 sittings, I mean, I went through the motions of it. I definitely purged, but I didn't feel any kind of spiritual release or connection or, yeah, I didn't get anything out of it the first 3 times. But the fourth time, I was truly called to it because I had said that I wasn't going to participate in the ceremony, and then I woke up and the first words out of my mouth were, "Is combo happening now?" and and that experience just kind of like, okay, well, this is happening. That experience was really powerful for me. And I've sat with it a couple times since then, and it's been powerful. So I think, I mean, just like with any other medicine, it's has its time and place for each individual.
Yeah. These days I think I'm in the place just physically because you need to have a pretty good heart, and good, a little bit of strength on you before going through such an ordeal like that. But I think, yeah, if the situation calls for it and you're in the right place at the right time, my goodness, it can be such an amazing tool.
Yes.
I want to get my other questions here I had for you. Um, so what kind of was there a moment that kind of inspired you to go from more of like a social work, charity work, so sort of realm into spiritual? Because I felt like I've had this realization in the last couple of years. I've done a lot of activist work, a lot of like fundraising and LGBT stuff. And I was like, that's all good. And I want to do that in a way, but I want my main focus now to be from a spiritual basis. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be working for other nonprofits and stuff. I want to be like creating my own space for people to come together and build community and heal and serve and become devoted and like make spiritual progress.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like for you, and when did that kind of happen?
Yeah, great question. So I got my master's degree in counseling in 2014. Started working where you and I met, and then lost that job, and then lost another job, and then was about to lose another job, and in social work, but for reasons that I didn't understand. Like I I felt like I was doing a really good job, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't hold a job. And so when I was about to lose another job, I was sitting with medicine. I was on a retreat, and I decided to surrender and say, you know what? I think that I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but obviously I don't, because it's not working out. And so I asked the medicine what my role was in this lifetime. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? And I was sitting with ayahuasca. You typically take 2 to 3 cups of medicine in a ceremony. And so the first cup, that was my question. What am I supposed to be doing? And the message I got after that first cup was that I had been working with people who were victims in their stories. And I was trying to help people pull out of victimhood, but victimhood is something that each person has to come out of on their own. I can't force that, and I can't help anybody who's determined to stay there. And so I just was completely working with the wrong population, which is not to say that all of my clients were in that mentality, but just generally speaking, overarching, that was who I was working with, and not just in social work. I had actually tried to start 2 other businesses of my own before then, and my clients in those 2 businesses were also stuck in victim mentality. And so
It's all great these days, it seems.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
like you said, you have to be the one to pull yourself out of it when you're ready. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And then when a person is ready, their community, right? All of the hands to help. But if I'm not doing that work for myself, it doesn't matter how many hands are trying to help me, because I'm not going to grab any of them. So that was the first message. And so then I went up for my second cup, and I asked the medicine, all right, I get who I'm supposed to be working with. How do I do that? How do I move in that direction? And the medicine showed me facilitating cacao ceremonies, which was interesting because at the time I had no connection to cacao. I had never sat in a ceremony. I had never had ceremonial cacao ever.
Tell me. about that? Because I'm not familiar. And for any viewers,
Yeah. So cacao is, it's raw chocolate.
right.
And it's a heart opening medicine. So it doesn't taste like any chocolate that you buy in the store. It's kind
Right.
of bitter. Um, but it's very heart opening. On a physiological level, on a biological level, it's a vasodilator,
Mm.
and it contains theobromine, which is in the same family as caffeine. And so it it opens the veins. You can feel the blood pumping, but it doesn't give jitters like
Mm.
caffeine. It creates more of a like a cozy alertness.
Huh. I need to look into that because I can't do the caffeine. But that sounds really nice.
It is beautiful. It is so beautiful. And so from that place of like cozy, heart opening, it's a great medicine to go into connection with self, connection with others, releasing resentments and forgiveness, and um, just some good self-care. And so it's just a beautiful medicine. It is a beautiful medicine.
And like you had no connection to this prior to that second cup. It was just like you're gonna be doing cacao ceremonies.
Yeah, yeah. And so I got home from that trip and started sitting with cacao every single morning, uh, and learning online about where it comes from and what the customs look like and why is it sacred and how do you work with it. Um, but I like to let the plants teach me how to work with them. And so I was learning about the history of cacao and all of the important bits of it, and sitting with it each morning just in meditation, and allowing it to show me and
Right.
teach me. And so I got a lot out of that in my own life. Um, Realizations about my relationships with self and others, um, some great journaling prompts. And then after a couple months of sitting daily with cacao,
Mhm.
um, I got a download for a community ceremony. So I wrote that down. It seemed to make sense. I tried it out with some friends and it went really well. And so then I offered my first community cacao ceremony, which that was December of 2019. And it sold out to 20 strangers.
Wow. See what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Universe comes
Yeah.
through. That's amazing. Wow. What a great
That's,
person.
that's, I don't, again, part of my spirituality, I am not responsible for any of this. I'm not responsible for any of it. Um, I definitely see myself as working in collaboration with I don't know, universe, source, everyone. Um, and so I show up with as much humility as possible, and when that happens, and my ego is out of the way, then things flow.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I often think sometimes there's this part in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about doing your dharma, whether this or doing your Zen, doing your Tao, right? And even if you fail at doing your own dharma, it's better to do your own dharma than to succeed at doing somebody else's, right? And as
Mm-hmm.
like a perfectionist and like somebody that like what's the word? Almost like perfectionist paralysis. Like if I can't do something perfect, then I won't do it at all, or I just
Mm-hmm.
like I'll get to a point where I can't do anything more. It has to be perfect. Very Virgo sort of thing. But it's like, if you're willing to do your dharma, even if you fail, it's better to do your own dharma. You begin to see things just kind of falling into place very
Mm-hmm.
gracefully around you, and the right people come at the right time, the right conversations, and it's just like you begin to see
Mm-hmm.
the world in a different way, you know. Um,
Yeah. One of the things that I say is what is and what wants to be. And so that's how I exist in the present moment. That's how I manifest, is what is in this moment, and then what wants to be, just all senses open, what wants to be, and then following that. And as soon, I mean, it's been proven to me over and over again, as soon as I put my ego into anything, everything stops. Everything stops. I have been putting together ceremonies and been like, gotten everything except for maybe 20 minutes of the ceremony, and stressing, oh my gosh, the ceremony is tonight. I still need to fill 20 minutes. What am I going to do? And in that back and forth place of, I need to come up with something, which is ego, and sit back and let it come to you, which is humility. And the rush makes me feel like I need to go into ego, but the humility is where the answer comes. And so this back and forth, and every single time when I'm finally able to sit back and just listen and be still, then someone calls me up and is like, hey, I just went to a ceremony and they did this really cool activity. I'm like, oh, perfect. That's exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, over and over again with literally everything in my life. If I sit back and just pay attention, then everything falls into place, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's sort of like mindful awareness. And I think, so many people, we're all caught up in that kind of, well, some of us are just all caught up in ego, but, some of us are trying to be more humble. But I think the beautiful part and the great part is that you've had that realization that you can step like above that and kind of have that view of like, where am I coming from now? This space of ego or humility or whatever. And that's so important, especially from community organizers and healers. Because I offer spiritual stuff, but I just do one-on-one. I maybe I'll do some group stuff in the future, but I feel like that's a whole other realm unto itself, and you have to have it's a different kind of talent, and skill and dimension to be able to run group healing sessions and stuff like that versus kind of more of a one-on-one sort of approach.
Yeah, it takes an ability to like see everyone simultaneously, and that's another funky area, because it's not, for me at least, my experience of it is not checking in individually with each person throughout the group. Like I kind of do that a little bit, but it's really like I tap into the energy of the group and can sense things just from communication and glancing, and yeah, it's it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can tell you look so happy these days. Not that you didn't look happy before, but I'm just like super extra happy and glowy, and like there's a whole new life, I think, or joy or something that I can tell, like very happy these days. So it's good to see.
Thank
So,
you.
um, what are your goals and dreams and kind of visions moving forward with your community group? How do you say it again? Because I said Hosh, it's House?
Hausch.
House. Okay,
Hausch.
House.
Yeah. So Hausch is the sound that the snake makes instead of
Oh,
hiss.
okay, okay.
So the snake in the Amazon says Hausch,
Oh,
and the snake is the symbol of the vine and the ayahuasca plant, which is
oh,
where that term comes from.
oh, okay, okay.
Um, so vision for Hausch. Who knows? Again, what is and what wants to be. I can say that that it truly is a community-driven project,
Mm-hmm,
and that over 50% of the services I provide are funded by the community.
mm-hmm.
Like I literally could not do this work if it wasn't for the support from the community. And then a portion of my clients that pay full price goes into that too. So, I mean, people who aren't receiving services are helping, and people who are receiving services are helping. And then I'm just kind of the conduit. I just launched today. I just publicly announced a new group program that I'm offering called the Self-Healer's Way, which is an 8-week group coaching program for like 5 to 10 people. It'll be a small container. That is just a basic overview of the really important things to know in order to be successful on a healing path. So foundational elements, and then ways to identify where there is work. So there's some pain, but where does the pain come from? So how to identify where the pain is coming from. Frameworks for addressing whatever that pain is, and then also ways to move through blockages and ways to connect with community in order to continue that healing process. So I'm super stoked about the Self-Healer's Way. And yeah, that's something that's been in the works. So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens for Haux. I'm just going to keep showing up.
Yeah, it's like there's like so many different gears in motion, and beautiful things are happening and growing. So I wish I could be back in San Diego and give you guys a visit in your group and kind of feel these out and meet these different people, but it sounds like you're up to some beautiful things. So I salute you for that.
Thank you. And if you're ever out this way, definitely let me know. You can certainly come to a circle. I would love it.
Oh, that would be awesome. And if you're ever out in Pennsylvania and you need some Hindu puja services, or all you saw all the things I was up to spiritually back
yes.
in the day. So if you need any of that, you just let me know. But
absolutely, I love
before
it.
we go, I don't know, is there anything else you'd like to tell about yourself or your gatherings, or how people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, thank you. So I always want to express so much gratitude to community and to you for, I mean, you're part of it too, help, like, believing in what I do, seeing what I do and believing in it, and asking me if I would do this interview with you, which helps spread the word for Haux and for me. And so thank you so much for being part of that community. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, they can get in touch with me on social media at Haux Gatherings, and that's spelled HAUX, and then gatherings plural. So that's Instagram and Facebook, Haux Gatherings. And then my website is hauxgatherings.com. And people can get in touch with me there too. I publish blogs on a regular basis. They used to be weekly. They're less frequent now, just because I'm going through this launch of this group program. But the blogs are all about practical healing tips. I like to keep things practical.
I've read a couple of them. They were good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so hauxgatherings.com, and then Haux Gatherings on social media.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to link that in the description boxes and the tags and all of that too. So we'll make sure people have a way to get in contact with us if need be.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank you again for everything. This has been a great talk, and I'm like super amazed to hear all the things that you're up to these days. And hopefully I'll be out in San Diego one of these days soon too, and I can visit in person and go to one of your groups in person. That would be awesome.
Yes, I would love to be back in the Northeast also.
Okay, well, let me know if you're ever around.
I will, and let me know. Keep hitting me up, keep tagging me in your posts about the work that you're doing, because the work that you're doing out there is absolutely beautiful and groundbreaking, and just I love it. So keep tagging me in posts. Anything I can do to help with the work that you're doing too, I'm more than happy to.
Thank you very much. Alrighty, Ladybug, you take care.
You too, Sahila. I'll talk to you soon.